EcoHub podcast. Welcome back, everyone. The other day I was reading this fascinating report. It was from the Daiichi Life Research Institute.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Which one? I know they put out a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's called Neuro-Marketing, Understanding Consumer Behavior and Sensibility Through Science and Technology. It was published on September 30, 2024 by guest researcher Ryoya Tsukida.
Neuromarketing in Japan. Huh. That's right up our alley. Sounds fascinating. I bet it talks about how companies are using this tech to understand what makes consumers tick, especially in a market as unique as Japan.
You got it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Remember those old focus groups? You ask people what they like and they say one thing and then they buy something totally different.
Oh, yeah. Like when they insist they only buy organic, free-range kale chips, but then you look in their shopping cart and it tells a different story.
Yeah, exactly. This report is all about going beyond those surface-level responses, getting into the nitty-gritty of what's really driving those purchasing decisions.
So we're looking at, instead of relying on what people say, we're looking at what their brain and body are doing. That's wild.
Yeah, it is. The report talks about how traditional consumer research methods, like surveys and interviews, have limitations. They really rely on people being self-aware and honest, about their preferences.
Which, let's be real, isn't always the case.
Right. I mean, who hasn't fudged an answer or two on a survey, to make themselves sound better?
Yeah, guilty as charged. But with neuromarketing, you can't really hide those subconscious reactions, can you? I mean, your brain waves, your eye movements, they don't lie.
Right. They don't. And that's where things get super interesting. The report dives into how technology is letting us measure these subconscious responses with things like brain imaging and eye tracking.
So instead of asking someone, did you like this ad, we can actually see which parts of their brain lit up when they watched it.
Exactly. It's like having a window into the consumer's mind, seeing what grabs their attention, what triggers an emotional response, what might influence their decision to buy.
That's some next-level marketing intel. Wow.
It is. And the report emphasizes two major advantages of this approach: objectivity and access to the unconscious.
Okay. Break those down for me.
Okay. So, objectivity means we're getting data that's not filtered through someone's conscious thoughts or potential biases, right? It's like getting a direct read on what their brain is doing.
So it's like cutting through all the noise and getting to the heart of the matter. I like it. Okay, what about the unconscious?
Yeah. That's about tapping into those thoughts and emotions and preferences that people might not even be aware of themselves. It's like revealing those hidden drivers that are influencing our decisions without us even knowing it.
Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff. Can you give me like a real-world example? Like how would this work, say, in advertising?
Yeah, sure. Imagine you're testing a new ad campaign. With traditional methods, you'd rely on focus groups or surveys to get feedback.
Which we know isn't always the most reliable.
Right. But with neuromarketing, you could use eye tracking to see exactly what parts of the ad people are actually looking at. Are they drawn to the product, the tagline, the celebrity spokesperson,
And you can use brain imaging to see how the ad is making them feel.
Yeah.
Are they excited, intrigued, or bored out of their minds?
Exactly. You get a much richer understanding of how the ad is being perceived and whether it's likely to have the impact you want.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this could be a game changer for marketers. It's like leveling up your understanding of the customer.
Yeah. The report even mentions how these insights can be applied to, website design and product packaging.
So it's all about making things more user-friendly and appealing, right? By understanding how people actually interact with them.
You got it. It's like using science to create designs that are more intuitive and engaging. The report calls this human-centered design, and it's a big deal in Japan right now.
It makes sense. I mean, Japan is known for their focus on quality and craftsmanship, so it's not surprising that they're kind of leading the way in applying these techniques.
Let's dig into the tech itself a little bit. The report breaks down neuromarketing into two main categories: brain activity measurement and eye tracking.
Okay, let's unpack those. Starting with brain activity, what are the main tools they use?
Well, the big one you've probably heard of is fMRI. Functional magnetic resonance imaging. It's like taking a super detailed snapshot of the brain in action.
Yeah, fMRI is amazing, but isn't it kind of bulky and expensive? I can't imagine companies wheeling one of those into a focus group.
Yeah, you're right. That's why FNIRS is becoming more popular, especially in Japan. It's functional near-infrared spectroscopy. It's more portable and affordable.
So FNIRS is like the more practical, everyday version of fMRI.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. And get this, they're even developing wearable FNIRS devices. Like, imagine walking around with a brain scanner on your head.
That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? The future's getting weird. But it also means we can study brain activity in more natural settings, like, when someone is actually shopping or using a product.
Yeah. That's a big advantage. What's the other brain activity tech?
That would be EEG, electroencephalography. It measures brain waves directly, and it's becoming increasingly miniaturized. They're even making EEG sensors that look like little patches you just stick on your head.
Wow. So we're talking about like brain activity monitoring being as common as wearing a smartwatch.
It's definitely heading in that direction. But let's not forget about eye tracking, which is equally fascinating.
Right. I'm curious to learn more about how that works.
Well, eye trackers use infrared light to follow your eye movements. It's like a super precise way of mapping where you're looking and for how long.
So you can see what catches someone's eye, what they linger on, and what they completely ignore.
Exactly. And this is really valuable for understanding how people interact with websites, product packaging, even like retail store layouts.
I can see how that would be useful. Like you could optimize everything from a website design to like shelf placement based on how people actually look at things.
And the report highlights some pretty cool examples of how Japanese companies are already putting this tech to work.
Ooh, tell me more. What kind of real-world applications are we talking about here?
Let's start with ad agency A.
Okay, what did they do?
They partnered with a neuromarketing research company back in 2009, and they started using EEG and fMRI to analyze the effectiveness of their ad campaigns.
So they were like early adopters of this technology.
They were, yeah. The report gives an example of how they analyzed a TV commercial. It was for a camera company in China.
Okay, and what did they learn from that?
Well, by using EEG, they could see which specific scenes in the ad activated different areas of the brain.
So they could actually pinpoint what elements of the ad were resonating with viewers on a neurological level.
Exactly. For example, when the ad showed a beautiful landscape shot, it activated the parietal lobe, which is, involved in spatial awareness. And when it showed someone using the camera, it activated the premotor cortex, which is involved in planning movements.
That's incredible. So they could see how the ad was engaging viewers' senses of sight and action, even on a subconscious level.
It's like they were decoding the brain's response to the ad, like in real time.
That's some serious marketing magic. What other examples did the report mention?
Well, there's cosmetics company B, which used EEG and sensory evaluations to understand how people were emotionally connecting with their beauty serum.
A beauty serum. Really? That's interesting. I wouldn't think something like that would evoke, like, strong emotions.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. What they found is that the visual and tactile elements of the serum played a huge role in creating those positive feelings.
So, like, the color of the serum or how it felt on the skin were actually triggering those good vibes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Turns out the serum changed color as you rub it in, and it had this bubbly texture that people found really satisfying.
Ah, so they were tapping into those sensory experiences to create like an emotional connection with the product. That's clever.
It is. And it highlights how much of our decision-making is driven by factors we might not even be consciously aware of.
Yeah, it's like those sensory details were bypassing the logical part of the brain and going straight for the emotional center.
And that's exactly what neuromarketing is all about, understanding those hidden drivers that influence our choices.
Okay. I am officially hooked on this stuff. What other real-world applications did the report highlight?
Well, there's one more I think you'll find interesting. Household goods company C actually secured a patent in 2024 for a new method of evaluating marketing materials.
A patent? That's serious business. What's their secret sauce?
Well, they use eye tracking and brain measurements to quantify what they call visibility, likability, and communication of their product packaging.
So they're using science to measure how effective their packaging is at grabbing attention, creating a positive impression, and conveying the right message.
Precisely. Yeah, they're not just relying on gut feeling or focus groups anymore. They're using hard data to optimize their designs, make sure their products stand out on the shelf.
It's like they've cracked the code for creating packaging that's irresistible to the human brain.
It really is. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The potential applications for this technology are mind-blowing.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what the future holds for this field. But before we get too carried away with the possibilities, there's one important thing we need to address, right?
What's that?
Well, the ethical considerations, right. I mean, we're talking about technology that can tap into our deepest thoughts and feelings, stuff we might not even be consciously aware of.
Be like having access to the control panel of the human mind.
Exactly. And with that kind of power comes a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And with that kind of power comes a lot of responsibility. The report highlights some key concerns, starting with privacy.
Yeah. If companies can, like, track our brain activity and eye movements, couldn't they, like, potentially use that information to manipulate us?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. I mean, imagine a world where advertisers know exactly which buttons to push to get you to buy their products, even if you don't really need or want them.
Yeah. It's like a sci-fi dystopia where our own minds are being used against us.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope for sure. And that's why the report emphasizes the importance of informed consent.
Yeah. People need to know how their data is being collected and used, and they should have the right to opt out if they're not comfortable with it.
Absolutely. Transparency is key.
Hmm.
You know, companies need to be upfront about what they're doing with this technology. Give consumers a choice.
Yeah. And what about data security? This kind of information is incredibly sensitive. We need to make sure it's protected, right, from, like, hackers or misuse.
You're right. Data breaches are a major concern these days. And this type of data is especially valuable. It needs to be handled, like, with the utmost care.
For sure. The report also touches on the potential for bias in, like, neuromarketing algorithms. Could these systems, like, perpetuate existing societal biases?
That's a critical point. If the algorithms are trained on biased data sets, they could end up reinforcing those biases in their predictions and recommendations.
So, for example, if an algorithm is trained on data that suggests men are more likely to buy cars, it might end up showing car ads primarily to men, even if women are equally interested.
Exactly. We need to make sure these systems are designed and implemented in a way that's fair and equitable.
Okay, so what can be done then to, like, mitigate these risks?
The report suggests like a multi-pronged approach. First, we need strong regulations that protect consumer privacy and data security.
Like GDPR, but specifically for neuromarketing data.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. We need clear rules about what data can be collected, how it can be used, how long it can be stored.
And companies need to be held accountable for following those rules.
Absolutely. There should be like stiff penalties for companies that misuse or mishandle this data.
Right, okay. The report also highlights the role of industry self-regulation.
Yeah, ethical guidelines, best practices, those can help ensure that this technology is used responsibly.
So it's not just about, like, laws and regulations, it's also about companies doing the right thing.
Exactly. And consumers need to be informed and empowered to make their own choices.
So we need to educate people about how this technology works, what the potential risks are.
Yeah. So they can make informed decisions about whether to participate in like neuromarketing studies or allow companies to collect their data.
Okay. It sounds like a lot of pieces need to fall into place to make this work ethically.
It's a complex issue, but I'm optimistic that we can find solutions. The key is like open dialogue and collaboration between policymakers, researchers, companies, and consumers.
So it's not just about, like, shutting down this technology altogether. It's about finding ways to use it responsibly.
Exactly. Neuromarketing has the potential to be an incredibly powerful tool for understanding the human mind and creating like amazing experiences. But we need to be mindful of the potential pitfalls.
It's a classic case of balancing innovation with responsibility.
Yeah, it is. And that brings us to the future of neuromarketing. What trends are on the horizon?
Well, the report points to a few key developments, starting with the miniaturization of sensors.
Yeah. As sensors become smaller, more discrete, they can be integrated into like everyday devices like, smart glasses, earbuds, even clothing.
Imagine a world where your glasses can tell what you're thinking just by tracking your eye movements.
Or your earbuds can detect your emotional state based on your brainwaves.
That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
But it's becoming increasingly plausible. The report actually mentions tech giant D's eye tracking computers as an example.
Oh, right. Those computers can be controlled with your eyes,
Right.
opening up a whole new world of possibilities for, like, accessibility and user interface design.
Yeah, it's a game changer for people with disabilities.
Yeah. And tech giant D has also filed patents for EEG-equipped earbuds.
Oh, wow. So those earbuds could, like, track brain activity while you're listening to music, podcast, even having a conversation.
Wait, so my earbuds could know what I'm thinking about while I'm listening to this podcast? That's kind of mind-blowing.
It's true. And the applications go far beyond just, like, entertainment. I mean, imagine using these earbuds to monitor student engagement in a classroom or to help athletes improve their focus and performance.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. But so are the potential risks.
We need to be careful not to let this technology become too invasive. We need to set clear boundaries and ensure that people have control over their own data.
So it's not just about technological advancements. It's about societal values and ethical considerations.
We need to decide as a society how far we're willing to go with this technology, what safeguards we need to put in place.
Yeah, it's a conversation we need to be having now. Before this technology becomes so ubiquitous, it's too late.
Absolutely. The future of neuromarketing is in our hands. We need to shape it in a way that benefits humanity, not exploits it.
That's a powerful message. So where do we go from here?
Well, the report doesn't offer any easy answers, but it does provide a framework for thinking about these issues. It encourages us to be informed, engaged, and proactive in shaping the future of this technology.
Okay. So what are some concrete steps that we as individuals can take?
Well, first off, stay informed, read articles, listen to podcasts like this one, and follow the latest developments in the field.
Knowledge is power, right? The more we understand about this technology, the better equipped we'll be to navigate its complexities.
Second, engage in conversations about these issues. With your friends, your family, your colleagues, raise awareness. Help shape the public discourse.
Yeah, the more people who are talking about this, the better the chances of finding solutions that work for everyone.
And finally, be proactive. Contact your elected officials. Support organizations that are working to promote ethical use of this technology. Make your voice heard.
We can't just sit back and let technology dictate our future.
Right.
We need to, actively participate in shaping it.
That's the key takeaway here. The future of neuromarketing is not predetermined. It's up to us to decide what kind of world we want to create.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of neuromarketing.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground, from the science behind it to the ethical implications and the potential impact on society.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey.
I'm feeling both excited and a little overwhelmed by all the possibilities.
I think that's a healthy response. This is a field that's rapidly evolving, and it's natural to have mixed feelings.
So what's the one thing you want listeners to take away from this conversation?
Neuromarketing is a powerful tool, but it's a tool that needs to be used wisely. We need to be aware of the risks, but also embrace the potential for good. The future is in our hands.
Well said. Thanks for diving deep with me.
It's been my pleasure.
It's really got me thinking, as we've been talking about neuromarketing, it's how it connects to so many other trends we talk about here at EcoHub.
Yeah, totally. It's like this fusion of marketing and tech, psychology, even ethics.
Right. It really blurs the lines, which I find fascinating. But let's zoom out a little to the bigger picture. How could neuromarketing reshape the whole relationship between businesses and us, the consumers?
Well, I think on the one hand, it has the potential to make things way more personalized, Imagine if companies could really get your needs, even the ones you haven't, articulated yet.
Yeah, so no more annoying ads, just stuff that actually appeals to ME. Sign me up for that.
Well, it's not quite that simple, but you get the idea. Imagine products and services that are designed with your subconscious preferences in mind.
Okay, that sounds like a utopia of perfect shopping experiences.
Yeah.
But then there's that other side we keep coming back to.
Yeah, the potential for manipulation, What if businesses know our, hidden desires? Couldn't they exploit that?
That's what worries me. It's like that saying, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. But now it's not even our data. It's our brainwaves being sold.
Yeah, the report doesn't go that far, but it definitely raises concerns about how this could play out, Will it be a force for good or just another way to, push us into buying things we don't need?
Right. And what about, competition? If only the huge companies can afford this tech, won't they just have even more power?
That's a really legitimate concern. It could create a really uneven playing field where small businesses just can't keep up.
So it's not even just ethics, it's economics, too. This could impact, the whole market structure.
Right. And then you think about the potential for bias that we talked about earlier, Could these algorithms reinforce existing inequalities? It's something we need to watch really closely as this technology develops.
Yeah. Yeah, it all circles back to the need for, regulations, guidelines, ethical companies, really.
Oh, sure. We can't just rely on companies to self-regulate. We need clear rules and oversight.
So what can we do? We as average consumers, it feels kind of overwhelming,
Well, first off, don't panic. It's not all doom and gloom. Knowledge is power. So learning about neuromarketing is a great first step.
Like listening to insightful podcasts. Cock off.
Exactly. Haha. But seriously, the more people understand this stuff, the more informed the conversations will be.
And we can vote with our wallets, too.
Right.
Supporting companies that are being transparent and ethical in how they use this tech.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're not sure how your data is being used, reach out to the company, demand transparency.
This is about being informed
Mm-hmm.
and engaged, not just passive consumers.
You got it. We all have a role to play in shaping how this tech evolves.
This has been a really incredible journey, I think, into this world of neuromarketing. We've learned so much about the science, the potential, and the challenges.
I agree. It's been really fascinating, and I think this conversation is just getting started.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
I think it's that neuromarketing is a really powerful tool. It has the potential to revolutionize how we understand the consumer mind, but it's really up to all of us to ensure it's used ethically and responsibly.
Well said. Thanks for diving deep with me.
It's been my pleasure.
EcoHub Podcast. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay curious.